Silly.
Joe, we are very honored to have Ms. Kirker here with us today. Ms. Kirker has been very interested in the history of the U.S., and she has her own TV show on Northwestern Access Channel. I have had the pleasure of getting to know her and hearing about her knowledge of the U.S. Constitution. This will be her second time coming to Team USA, and we thank her for coming back to speak to us and share what she knows with the new group of students. Let me remind you all to be respectful of Ms. Kirker as she has taken time out of her day to come to speak to us. Please welcome Ms. Kirker.
Thank you, Sydney. And I appreciate Mr. Coffey inviting me back again to address the 7th and 8th graders. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to be today discussing a topic of importance to all American citizens, the founding of our country. However, first, I would like you to know who the person is who's speaking with you today. So I decided to tell you some things about myself and what founded me, why I am the person that I am today, in part at least. I grew up in New Jersey and at 18 entered UVM School of Nursing. For years, I worked as an RN at the medical center at a variety of medical practices, and 15 years I spent at the New England Red Cross Blood Services in Burlington. Yes, I used to draw blood, but I was good at it, and we used to go into high schools and to blood drives and collect blood. Sadly, my mom died of cancer at the end of my freshman year at UVM. Also, talking about life and decisions we make in life and the mistakes we sometimes make. I made the mistake of agreeing to marry in my junior year of nursing school. I was going to be an A student and the perfect wife until the stress landed me in the hospital for 2 weeks. The marriage ended after 15 years. I had no job, no money, no parents, they were both deceased, no family in Vermont. I had not finished my nursing degree. What a big mistake. But we all make mistakes in life, and hopefully we learn from it. Was it scary for me? Oh yeah. Was I frightened? You bet. Who was going to have to figure out what to do? Me. So I got a 20-hour-a-week job, re-enrolled in nursing school at 33 years old, received a small scholarship that I had applied for, and took care of my 2 children. Was it easy? No. Was it worth it? Yes. Today I'm blessed to have 2 grown children who are productive citizens, 2 grandsons I'm very proud of, and 8 step-grandchildren, all of whom are important to me. They range in age from like 8 to one just started college, plus my grandsons are older. I married again, only to lose my husband to a brain tumor 8 months into our marriage. It was an honor to take care of him and to give him the loving care that he deserved. Life can be tough. I thank my mom for my ability to cope with life's challenges. Why? Because she was loving and tough. When I was young, excuse me, I was always given jobs to do at home. And they weren't always easy jobs, but the more I had to do, the more I learned, the more self-confident I became. It was called responsibility. My parents expected me to work hard in school. And when I was given a job to do the best, do it to the best of my ability. I'd like to give you one simple example. I must have been, I'll say 11 years old. And I had household chores to do, and one of them was, well, at the time, you got a 50-cent allowance for the week. And my mother made sure I earned it. And I didn't get paid until I did the jobs assigned to me to her satisfaction. So one day, I had dusted the living room furniture, and my mom came into the room, and she went like this. What was the message? If you're going to do something, do it well. She didn't have to say a word. I was watching, and I knew. As an adult, many years passed through. For 5 years, I sang lead in a mixed barbershop quartet with my husband and another couple. We had so much fun entertaining other people. I was honored to be elected to serve 2 terms in our state legislature in Montpelier before I moved from Essex Junction to the town of Georgia. Today, I have 11 years of service in the Vermont State Guard and hold the rank of Major. I'm proud of that. We assist the National Guard when we're called upon. Also 11 years ago, I became the producer and host of Sound Off, a weekly cable TV program. The show allows me to bring issues and events to the public. And I had a couple of you folks on the show not long ago. Why do I tell you all this? Because there are so many opportunities in life for you too. And because life is not always easy. However, I strongly believe that our life challenges are opportunities for personal growth. When hardship smacks us in the face, we have choices, don't we? We sink or we swim. It is called life experience that helps us to develop into the person we become. We can face the tough times and learn to become a stronger, wiser person, or we can stay stuck where we are. I have always chosen to face the obstacles and grow stronger despite the challenges, as I hope you will also. We get only one life, so give yourself the gift of making it the best that you can. And now, speaking about challenges, the birth of our nation. In the 1600s, which sounds like a long time ago, British subjects who could no longer tolerate the oppressive rule of King George III of England bravely left their homeland to become settlers in America, to seek freedom of religion and other freedoms denied to them by the tyrannical king. Can you imagine picking up, let's say being really unhappy in this country, and picking up stakes and going across the ocean, not even knowing what you're going to find, and setting up a brand new nation? Took a lot of courage. In England, there was one church, a government church called the Church of England. Many of the settlers in this new land were religious or Puritans who wanted to practice their own faith. Also, taxes were high and freedom was restricted under the king's rule. Eventually, the settlers formed colonies in their new land, and they created the Articles of Confederation. Have you heard of those? Not yet. Okay. The Articles of Confederation, to bind them together. This was a precursor, something prior to setting up the Constitution. The Articles of Confederation. However, the King of England was determined to continue to control and tax the colonists as British citizens. Well, that wasn't good. They weren't settling for that. So Thomas Jefferson sent a letter to the king declaring that the colonists desired to be free from British rule. So how did the king respond? He sent his troops to America to fight the colonists. Now keep in mind, well, this resulted in the Revolutionary War that raged for almost 8 years from 1775 to 1783. During the war, Between June 11th and June 28th of 1776, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. That's the document stating that the colonists wanted to be totally separate from England. This was signed on July 4th of 1776, our Independence Day, and that is why we celebrate the 4th of July, because that's the date the Declaration of Independence was signed that separated us officially from Great Britain. The colonists did not have an army. They had their few muskets and you know, some other weapons maybe. But they were so determined to win their independence from the king that they pledged their lives, their property, and their honor to achieve freedom. They valiantly fought Great Britain's Grand Army in massive ships and all kinds of armor and troops and everything. And here you have these little colonists with their muskets fighting them off. They valiantly fought Great Britain's Grand Army and amazingly eventually won their freedom from England, but not without great sacrifice. The Declaration of Independence, signed 241 years ago, as I said, on July 4th, 1776, and I want to mention, 240 years ago probably sounds like a long time ago, but I got to thinking about, I'm 77 years old. So if you took 3 people my age and stacked them in years, that's the number of years ago. So then it doesn't seem like so long. Anyway, the Declaration explains in detail why the colonists wanted a separation from England. They felt an obligation to explain their grievances against the king to the world. The Declaration of Independence reveals not only why the colonists broke away from England, but why they finally established a unique constitution for America that would empower the individual and the sovereign states, or independent states. They accomplished this by setting constitutional, this is important, they accomplished this by setting constitutional controls on the federal government to clearly define and limit its powers. They were fearful of big government after their painful experience with the tyrannical king. There was fierce determination to ensure that life in their new country, right here, would be free from an all-powerful government. In fact, the founders of this nation were courageous men who were determined to create an anchor of freedom and opportunity for themselves and for you and me. 25 of the 56 signers of the Declaration had attended religious seminaries, so it's no wonder there are so many references to religion in the founding documents. Many colonists lost their lives in the struggle for liberty in America. At great cost, the people won their freedom. I wonder how many of us today would give up so much and fight so hard to create a country to live in where they felt free. I would hope that there were a lot of us. About the Constitution. Following the Revolutionary War, it was decided that the Articles of Confederation, which loosely bound the states together, were ineffective in providing protection for the individual colonies should they be attacked. Once again, representatives of the various states assembled to strengthen the Articles of Confederation, but instead it was determined that a Continental Congress should be convened. After months of deliberation, debate, and discussion, it was decided that a new document should be created for the colonies as a whole, primarily to provide national security by giving a new federal government authority to tax the colonies to provide military protection, set up the military services. Okay, enter the birth of the Constitution. As delegates gathered from the states in Philadelphia, at the Constitutional Convention to represent their states, it was determined that their new government must specifically address compelling issues that initially drove them out of England. There would be no one person with power over the people. The government would consist of what? 3 co-equal branches of government. The goal was to have a balance of power so that no one branch of government would become too powerful. The new government would be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. The people would not create a pure democracy where the people vote and the majority wins. That's what a pure democracy is. That is rule by men versus the rule by law, and I'm going to explain that in a second. Instead, they would create a democratic republic where the people still vote, but they elect representatives who take an oath to honor, protect, and defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the United States of America. I had to take that oath when I was sworn in as a state legislator. Your judges, everybody who's in elected office takes that oath to protect our Constitution. That would be protecting the people. That is rule by law, not rule by the whims of men, which can result in chaos or mob rule because there's no foundational law or constitution upon which the people can depend for consistency and freedom from oppression. A current U.S. Senator, Ben Sass, I don't know if it's Sassy or Sass, but whatever it is, the quote is his. Here's the quote. "We the people in America," that's you and me, "believe that our rights come to us by way of nature, and government is our project to secure those rights. So we, the people, give government enumerated or listed powers. We don't wait for government to give us our rights. We claim those by nature. The Constitution is a list of powers that we decide to give the government. And when that list ends, the government has no further powers. The Constitution is not some list of limited rights the people have. The government is limited and the people's rights are limitless. We have the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and I'll go on with more. So what does our national Constitution, the supreme law of this country, consist of? Number 1, there's a short preamble, it's like 1 paragraph, explaining the reason why they're creating the Constitution. In fact, the Constitution is like, this thick in a little booklet. It's not thousands and thousands of pages. It is so simple to read and understand. Okay, here's the preamble. Remember, it's explaining why they're setting up this Constitution. We, the people of the United States. Why? In order to create a more perfect union. Remember, the Articles of Confederation were too loose and they weren't providing national security, so they wanted to improve upon that. Establish justice. Set up a judicial system of laws. Ensure domestic tranquility, peace at home. Provide for the common defense, set up a military, promote the general welfare, create an environment in the country where people can thrive and have opportunity and business can succeed and be successful, and secure the blessings of liberty, freedom to ourselves and those posterity, those who come after us. We do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So they had specific goals, and it was all listed in 1 paragraph called the preamble to the Constitution. Then there are 7 articles, and each article has a purpose, of course. They're defining the 3 branches of government. And what are the 3 branches of government? You have the legislative branch. Anybody can tell me what that is? Yes.
Creates
sorry.
Legislative branch creates law.
That is right. That is the House and the Senate, or the Congress, creates the laws. And I might throw in here that there are 18 clearly defined duties of the federal government, period. They're all listed in the Constitution. And you might want to look that up. And then you have the executive branch. What is that? Yeah?
President and Vice President.
Good. The president and the administration. What do? They enact the laws that Congress has created. So they're working together. And then you have the judicial branch that ensures that the laws are constitutional. In addition to that, so you have, let me start again, you have the preamble, you have the 3 branches of government in 7 different articles. That's all listed. How old you have to be to run for the legislature or the Senate, how many years you have to have lived in the state that you're going to represent, a lot of things like that. Okay, so the preamble, the 3 branches of government, and then you have 27 amendments to the Constitution over the years. What are the first 10 amendments called? Yes? Right on. The Bill of Rights. I call them the Bill of Individual Rights because that's basically what they are. When Benjamin Franklin was leaving the Constitutional Convention, a woman ran up to him. Mr. Franklin, what have you given us? And he said, a republic, madam, if you can keep it. And the reason for that is because the people who founded our country knew that if we didn't have citizens who understood the Constitution and their rights, who were vigilant in watching what our elected people are doing, and were participatory in government, running for office. I hope some of you will run for office someday. Let me just tell you, when I was in the 8th grade, I brought my file last time. I should have brought it. But I have a file this thick of my U.S. history notes. I loved U.S. history. I was so fascinated by it. Mr. Hunter, our teacher, was just so interesting and gave us projects to do. I put together a newspaper. You know, I drew pictures of the Lincoln-Douglas debate or the Hamilton and Burr duel, and different things that happened in that time frame. And then I wrote, like I was the editor of the paper, writing what happened, and it just was so fascinating to me. This is your country. You need to know the history, and you need to know what your rights are, and you need to watch the people who are elected. And when you are old enough to vote, and that'll be only a few years from now, it goes by quickly, trust me. Your responsibility is to evaluate, first of all, yourself and what principles you believe in, and then you talk with the people running for office, and you ask them, let's say there are 2 issues that are really important to you. You talk with them, and you don't tell them what you want. I'm speaking as someone who's been there. You ask them, where do you stand on this issue? And don't let them hedge. You make sure you understand where they stand. That is our responsibility as citizens, is to make sure that we're electing people who are going to stand up for the foundational laws of our country that protect you and your children going forward. Okay, so after 4 months of intense debate, delegates of 12 of the original 13 colonies signed the Constitution on September 17th, 1787. That is our Constitution Day. And unfortunately, there aren't a lot of places in the country that celebrate that. A few of us a few years ago set up three years of Constitution Day celebrations in the park with a band playing patriotic music and speakers, and we had a contest for students, to write about a particular topic about our country. And that girl from Georgia actually won $100 for her contribution. We've given up doing that, unfortunately. It was a whole lot of work, and unfortunately, I did most of it. After 5 years, you kind of figure, move on to something else, but I think that's so critically important. Okay, so September, I want you to remember this. The date that your country's constitution was signed, September 17th, 1787. Rhode Island was the 13th of the 12 states, and Rhode Island determined that they weren't going to participate. So 2 years later, in 1789, the states themselves, the people of the states, ratified the Constitution. Later, Thomas Jefferson approached James Madison. Now, James Madison wrote the Constitution. I don't know how many of these names you know, but you need to do your research and know who some of these founding people were, because they're important to your history. Anyway, Thomas Jefferson approached James Madison, who wrote the Constitution, with the concern that there was no provision in the Constitution that defined the rights of the individual citizen, one of the main motivations that drove the colonists out of England in the first place. So, in 1791, 2 more years later, the Bill of Individual Rights was added to the Constitution. That's freedom of religion, freedom of the press, so forth. There are a lot of them. Okay. What year was our first president elected, and who was it? Anybody? Yes.
Is it George Washington?
Right on.
I don't know.
1789. And well, I might as well tell you, do you know who the second president was? John Adams. And the third one was Thomas Jefferson. And the fourth one was James Madison. I had to think. Okay. Let's see. Okay. The judicial branch, which creates a court system to ensure that justice under the law, and ensures that laws are constitutional. Any law that does not comply with the U.S. Constitution is null and void. So the people who are writing the laws in the Congress need to know what they're doing and make sure that when they create a law that it runs, with the Constitution. Okay. There were 13 original colonies or states. What number state was Vermont?
14.
Okay, good for you. The 14th state to join the Union on March 4th of 1791. And down at UVM, you'll see something, you'll see a statue, and it says 1791 on it. Okay. I didn't grow up in Vermont, so I had to learn about Vermont on my own. Okay, here's a quote by President James Garfield. Here you go. Now more than ever before, the people are responsible for the character of their Congress. If Congress is ignorant, reckless, and corrupt, it is because the people tolerate ignorance, recklessness, and corruption. If Congress is intelligent, brave, and pure, it is because the people demand these high qualities to represent them in the national legislature. As I said before, each elected official takes an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, and thereby defending the people. Our responsibility as citizens is to be, as I said earlier, vigilant, watching, and active When you're old enough, get involved on a committee or a select board or a school board, something in your community. Be a part of your country. And be vigilant and active to ensure that our rights are protected. Our form of government is dependent upon educated citizens who are empowered by their freedoms. Hold on. Well, I'm like, I'm just gonna finish. Oh well. That's life, right?
About being flexible.
Amen.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the Constitution filled the founders' wildest dreams. Our country's not perfect. We have work to do to ensure that our laws are enforced and to ensure that citizens of all ages are knowledgeable about their rights and responsibilities. We have an obligation to teach our children to be proud of their country, to be patriotic citizens of the United States of America, a nation that millions of people around the world aspire to enter to gain the freedom and opportunity that we Americans often take for granted, perhaps at our peril. I'm going to interject here. This is, no, I'll finish. Okay. I have another quote by Edmund Burke. Listen carefully. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men and women do nothing. That's all it takes. If we don't watch and take part and hold them accountable, evil can prevail. Man is not perfect. There are some people who will do things that are not in our best interest, even though they've been elected. Well, they ought to have one term and we get them out of there. Okay? So, we don't want to be doing nothing as citizens. So please, read the Constitution, the supreme law of your country. I have a bunch of them. If anybody wants one, give me your name and I will see that you get one. Be an informed citizen and set an example for others to follow. As U.S. citizens, we have responsibilities. You are the future leaders of this nation. You may not think so now, but you are. Your job right now is to, right now at this age, in this school, and at home, is to be a sponge for knowledge. To learn everything you can today, because everything you learn today is a building block for what you will learn tomorrow. And eventually, you will have a platform, a foundation for your life, for your future life. But it all starts now, folks. This is not, oh, I have to go to school today. No, what am I going to learn today that's going to be valuable to me in the future? That's going to help me when the next project comes along or the next lesson comes along. You want to be prepared. In the future, your children will depend on you to do your part to protect their constitutional rights and freedoms. Okay, now the very end of my speech, you've been very patient. I appreciate it. I hope you're paying attention. This is one of my favorite sayings. Work is a good four-letter word. Okay, there are others that are not, but work is a good four-letter word. Older folks like me have worked hard, paid our taxes for you to get a good education, and made our contributions to this country. A solid education is key to a successful life. Respect yourselves. Respect others. Respect the law. Respect is one of my favorite words too. Every one of us needs kindness, respect, consideration, and friends. When you are kind to others, you feel good about yourself. That is a gift from you to you, as well as the other person. Work hard. You are worth the effort. Have high expectations of yourself and challenge yourself to be the very best that you can be. You'll be glad that you did. And your country will be stronger because you are a hard worker and an informed citizen. This country needs you. Please study the U.S. Constitution, and thank you so much for your patience. That's the end. Any questions?
So, any questions for Ms. Kirker? Anything? Violet?
Oh, yes.
Are the three branches created so not only one person can just say this is something, or this isn't something?
Yes. The people who are elected have to abide by the laws. And if you're thinking perhaps of a president, there are things called executive orders that have been used a lot in the recent past. They are legal. They're a legal thing to do. But sometimes, see, here we go again. If you have a president who is enacting executive orders and they don't necessarily comply with what's supposed to be done, if you don't have a Congress that stands up and says, wait a minute, you can't do this, or this doesn't fit in, maybe this part you can do, but that part you can't. But that's why we're vigilant. We know what's going on. We elect people who are going to abide by the laws. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yes.
You said you lived in New Jersey, was it, when you were younger?
I grew up in northern New Jersey, yep.
You moved here. What was it? Just curiosity that made you want to go into the state, like, Senate or whatever you were?
Into Vermont, you mean?
Yeah, like what made you want to, like, be a part of the government, I guess you could say?
Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting question. I hope I have an interesting answer for you. Okay. Well, first of all, I came to Vermont because I loved the setting of the university. It was kind of colonial looking, and I just felt at home there. And I knew someone who was attending UVM, and came up, of course, you know, like everybody does, to check out the school. And I knew they had a really good program. So, as I said, for years I was a nurse. And when my husband was ill, now he had worked in Washington, D.C. in the Reagan and Bush administrations as a political appointee. Very, very smart and fun to talk with, interesting, and a really fine man. And when he was ill, he said to me, well, I'll back up quickly. I lived in Essex Junction, and there was a big debate going on between the village and the town. The villagers wanted to separate from the town and create the city of Essex Junction, and there was a big to-do over it. And I was appointed by the trustees to do research, okay? So people kind of knew my name, and my husband was there when I gave the report to the trustees. So after that, he said, Linda, you should run for the Senate. And I said, huh? Me? Are you kidding me? I don't know anything. And he said, you'd be good at it. And I said, oh, I don't think so. So, as I said, I took care of him. And by the way, he had a diagnosis, I say we had a diagnosis, that of a brain tumor that he wasn't going to live for a long time, only for a short time. And I said to him, we are focusing on life. Whatever the good Lord gives us, we're going to take that time and we're going to make it the best we can. And that we did. And so after he passed, a few people approached me in the community and asked me if I would consider running for the House. And I said, well, If I do, I'm not doing it just solo. I said, if you believe that I could represent the community well and you want me to run, I will do it on the condition that we put a committee together and we work together on my candidacy. So they said, oh yeah, we will. Well, they were phenomenal. We had a committee for fundraising, we had a committee for, reaching out to the community, we had committees for everything. And the thing is, some people who run for office, by the way, I lost the first time by just a matter of a few votes, and there was a problem actually between the town and the village had their poll workers in the same room at different tables. And my friends were coming out and saying, Linda, I can't find you on the ballot. Come to find out at the end, the villagers where I lived had run out of ballots. So somebody from the town said, oh, here, we have plenty. But they had different candidates, okay? So anyway, somebody came out finally and told me, but by then it was too late. So I lost by 42 votes, and my husband used to say, numbers are for losers. You either win or you don't. So I decided to run the second time, and if you don't mind my saying so, we blew them away. And so that's why I ran, because my husband encouraged me, and I had always loved history, and I took a chance. I didn't know, it was a whole brand new learning experience. And that's another thing I'd like to say. I mean, it's off the topic of the Constitution, but it's about life. Opportunities are going to come your way throughout your life. Things that maybe you never entertained in your mind. But if you're open-minded and receptive to the things that are out there in life to do, the positive things, the healthy things, the productive things, go for it. If it's something you're interested in, I didn't win the first time. I had 2 young grandsons at the first time I ran. And we had a big spaghetti dinner. The church hall was filled, and I gave a speech, and I invited other politicians. I wasn't a politician yet, to come and speak. And after the election, my older grandson, probably was 11 or 12 at the time, came up to me and said, Graham, did you win? Did you win? And I said, well, it depends how you look at it, Matt. I said, I didn't win the election, but I said, I learned so much. I met so many new people. I know so much more about, running for office and about my community. So I said, in all those ways, I won. I didn't win the election, but I feel good about the effort. And it's about life with you too. It's how you look at things. So, I forgot what else I was going to say along this line. But thanks, Jake. By the way, it was fun to have you two on the TV show. And I want to say too, if you're doing a project sometime and it pertains to, the public, something the public would be interested in, don't hesitate to have Mr. Coffey approach me, and we'll see if it's something we can do. Any other questions about our country? Yes.
Have people ever made changes to the Constitution?
Well, those are the amendments. Okay, the 27 amendments, that's the way we change the Constitution. And there are 2 ways that can happen. And I would want to do a little more investigation, but I know 2/3 of, I think it's 2/3 of the, 3/4 of the people have to approve it, and it's 2/3 of something else. Is it the Senate? It might be the Senate. And 3/4 of the states have to approve it. So it's not a simple process. It has to be really important, obviously. And you know, if you have any other questions, I'm open. That's what I'm here for. Yes?
What was the most challenging part in all of your research for like becoming like running for like running and everything?
Running for office?
Yeah.
The most challenging part, well, was figuring out, you know what? Figuring out how to run a campaign it was instinctive for me. Like I said, I didn't want to just do it myself. I wanted to incorporate some of the people in the community that I'd be representing. And a really positive part of that is that if I ran and it was just me, the people who knew me, you know, might be more inclined, hopefully, to vote for me. But if you have a team of people who live in different parts of your community, and they all have networks, then your name as a candidate gets out there even more. We had signs all over the community because all these people were involved. And so when you have name recognition, then that helps to get elected. Yes?
Are you still working for the legislative right now?
No. I watch what's going on in my community. I watch what's going on in our state. I watch what's going on in our country, and I pay attention to what's going on internationally. I'm on the email or my computer a fair amount when it cooperates with me. I get a lot of publications that inform me about things that are going on, and I find it exciting. You know, there's some things I like, there are some things I don't like. And when I'm on my TV show, I always try to be respectful, but by the same token, I'm going to say what I think the people need to hear, and then they can decide whether they agree with it or not. Or they can choose to come on the show, and we can talk about it. Yes?
How did you feel about the presidential election this year?
I wasn't going to get into politics, but I will tell you this. I'm hopeful. I was not happy with the last 8 years. I'm hopeful. One thing I like is that we have a businessman in charge now. Businessmen know how to approach things. And government is a huge business. Just like education is a big business in this country. And we need leaders who have a business sense, who know how to target things that are most critical and bring people into the administration that have a lot of experience and know-how. That is all in the best interest of all of us. So I'm hopeful. I like what I see so far in the new administration. That's my perspective.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. Anybody else? This is fun. No other, yes.
Wasn't it Baron Montague that actually came up with the checks and balances for our different
One more time.
Wasn't it Baron Montague that came up with the checks and balances?
You know better than I do.
What, Tyra, could you just say that louder?
I said, was it Baron Montague that came up with the checks and balances for our branch of the government?
I'm not the history buff, that's for sure. So I don't know.
Anybody
That's
else?
something you're gonna have to find out.
We have a smart cookie here.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to do some research on that one. It's no secret that I don't know everything, and I'm not a, professional speaker. I'm not a pro about, the founding of our country, but I do know the founding principles that protect us and give us independence as individuals and freedom. And you can't ask for better than that. But it's up to us what we're going to do with it. We can sit back and just float through life and never put ourselves out there. Work ethic is so critically important. And boy, my parents, 1 year, I have a son and a daughter, and 1 year my daughter was in high school, and she said, Mom, I feel like I have the word responsibility emblazoned across my forehead because I was raised to be a responsible person, to be accountable for my actions, to work hard. There were high expectations of me. And if no one else has high expectations of you, which make you work harder, then you create the high expectations for yourself. Because there's a lot of potential in this room. A lot of potential here. Who knows? Who here is going to be in the legislature? Maybe even run for Congress one day. If I were younger, I'll tell you I would run. Because I feel so strongly about this country. I got a late start in thinking about all of these things myself. And I'm trying, I was in my 50s. Did you have a question?
No, I was just standing.
Oh, okay. What are you standing for?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Unrelated to why I got up.
Okay.
So earlier you stated that the Constitution is a fairly short document, easy to read and understand. If that's true, why does it continue to be something that people argue over and even spend their entire careers arguing about?
Because they don't like the tenets in here. Some people don't like what's in here. For instance, one big thing. There are people in this country who want a huge, all-encompassing, all-controlling, all-powerful national government. The more that government controls, the less freedom you have. That's why there are 18 enumerated responsibilities of the federal government in the Constitution, period. The more that government does for you, the less control you have over your life. Does that answer your question? And there are people like myself who want this is the other version. This is a shorter one. Can you believe the whole Constitution of our country is in this little booklet? The Declaration of Independence is in here. What else is in here? Nothing like the flag in this one. But in this little document, the whole framework for the country is right here. And you need to know it. You just need to know it. You're going to be voting citizens with a say in our government.
Some of you, within the next presidential election, you'll be able to vote for some of you.
4 more years.
Yeah.
So take it to heart, please. I know you have other things. I used to play sports and sing in the choirs and cheerleader and all that stuff years ago. I can't do a cartwheel and land in a split anymore, unfortunately. But it was fun when I could. So, if there are no... Do you have a question?
Yeah, you mentioned early on when you were introducing yourself, you mentioned the Vermont State Guard. Could you just expand on that? Because I'm sure some of these kids we don't talk about necessarily the State Guard, we talk about the National Guard and our armed forces. But I'm not sure if anybody picked up on that. If you could just expand on that.
Sure. Well, I was at a gathering 11 years ago when I was helping out with something for the public. I can't remember what it was. And sitting across from me was the commander of the 1st Battalion of the Vermont State Guard that meets over at the National Guard Armory. And we got to talking, and see, I listen and I'm open to opportunities. We were talking and he said, why don't you consider joining the State Guard? And I said, well, what's that? So he went on to tell me we're not armed. We are a military, part of the military. We help the National Guard when they call on us. Last year it was 25 times they wanted us to pitch in. We have people trained in security, in traffic control. We attend a lot of the gatherings that for the veterans and so forth that they put on. It was just this summer, late this summer, something called Vigilant Guard, where there were thousands of people around the country who participated in it. We had National Guard troops at Camp Johnson in Colchester from various states. We were there as the State Guard, and they thanked us profusely for being there. We wear what are called BDUs, uniforms. We can be called up by the governor to help when there's a need. We're definitely different from the National Guard, but not every state has a state guard, by the way. But I decided, what the heck, I'll join, and I'm the S1, which is the personnel person, and I do the chaplain work, and I keep all the records and help to install new members. We just installed 2 new people from St. Albans into our unit. And so I've been doing that for 11 years. I don't know how much longer. Yes, you have a question?
I'm sorry, Ms. Kirker.
No? Okay. So, does that answer your question?
That's perfect, yeah. It's,
You don't have to put on the boots, which is a struggle. Especially at
I think they play an important role in our Vermont community, for sure. And it does kind of go unnoticed at certain times, I think.
Yes, and we have been kind of limited on how much we can do. We have to abide by the rules, and we're kind of limited in how much outreach we can do. I've offered to have the commander on the TV program, or someone from Camp Johnson, or whatever. But so far that hasn't happened, but we're always looking for new members. I'm proud. You know, when I was in college, well, it was after my mom died, the end of my freshman year, and I was wondering, my mom went back to work so that I could go to college. So, believe me, I worked my fanny off to get good grades because I wanted my mom to know how much I appreciated her going back to work to support me to be in college. So after she passed away, I got, oh boy, I may not be able to stay in school. So I phoned my dad. I always listened to my parents, most of the time. And I said, Dad, what if I lived in the Army? I could be an Army nurse. It would be an interesting opportunity and a chance to serve. I said, plus, they'll pay for my last 2 years of college. No daughter of mine is going in the military. Okay, Dad. But I always regretted that I didn't do that. And maybe it was the right thing, who knows. So now I feel like I'm providing a service through the Vermont State Guard. One way or another, you find a way to be helpful, whether it's one-on-one, one person to another, or whether it's family being supportive. You know, we don't, like I said, we have one life, and what we do with it is up to us, right? There's so much out there to do, but you've got to build the foundation. Remember that when you come into school. I see some of you are getting tired.
For sure. I'm going to end with Jake. I do want to appreciate, I talk about the community all the time, and we need people to speak up, as you're saying, and you're a great example of, you know, at least making people aware of the issues that come out in our community. So I appreciate you taking the time to prepare your speech and to come in and share that with you, because I think it's so important that we get all ends of the spectrum throughout our community. The more we can get out and do that, the better off we're going to be. So Jake, you want to wrap that?
Glad to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we just wanted to thank you as a team for coming and speaking with us. I think we all learned a lot from your stories and your actions in life, and we wanted to give your team a say grace.
Thank you. Can all give you a hug? He came on the TV show along with this fine